We don't have to do nothing else. Yeah, do you want that we just bring the people in and then we're gonna start the PowerPoint in a moment? Fine,
Yes,
right?
go ahead. Yeah, actually I can get it up right now. Just let me pull it up here. Go ahead. You can go ahead and let everyone in.
Yeah, so as I see, I want to see if people just open up the camera so I can see all the faces today.
Yay.
That will be very nice. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Yes, open the cameras. We are going to see everybody. And I'm gonna take a picture if you allowed me so I can just give it to you on the Google Drive. Oh my goodness. Look at everybody is here. Thank you so much for being on time. While I'm talking, I'm just admitting more people to the room because this training, I'm super excited. It's a new training. And by the way, we just sold out. It was amazing. So thank you so much. And let me see who is here. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna wait one more minute so everybody be here in the room because we have a lot of people. And I don't know if you wanted, Laura, just hide the PowerPoint for a minute so we can just see everybody that opened the camera so I can take a picture of everybody.
Oh, okay.
It will be so nice.
Okay.
Yes, I see more people. Just open the camera. I love it. Hello, everyone. How are you today? How are you? Good? Everybody's good? Ready to learn? Oh, I had my new, yeah, see, I see like the new Zoom that allows me to just make like, I put all the icons there. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm very excited. Thank you so much. Happy Tuesday. Okay,
Yes.
one more. Happy Tuesday. Okay, so I'm gonna take a picture right now with all of you, and then we're gonna start the presentation, okay?
So everybody smile. Give us your best smile.
And I'm gonna give it to you, that picture as well, so you're gonna have it, and it's great. Okay, let me see if nobody else just join us right now. So 1, 2, 3, and smile. Yes, thank you so very much for being with us. Okay, I have one question. Who hasn't, is the first time, and raise your hand, is the first time join a training with Housing Action Illinois? With me. Okay, Millet, thank you. Who else? So, Millet, okay. Oh my God, I have new faces.
Exciting.
I'm so excited. So we are going to go with the PowerPoint because I'm going to introduce Housing Action Illinois and myself, of course. Thank you so much. So my name is Vivian Cristino. I'm a capacity building specialist at Housing Action Illinois. We advise agencies in how to build capacity, create and expand housing counseling programs, become HUD approved, and comply with HUD regulations. That's why this training is very important. And I'm in charge of the trainings. For more, you can just put the next slide, please.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm multitasking.
Yes, that's who we are. For more than 35 years, we have brought together members organizations from across Illinois, united in our vision of expanding affordable housing and ending homelessness. Our members include housing counseling agencies, homeless services providers, developers of affordable housing, and policymakers. Housing Action mission is based in the 3-tier platform. So we have the public policy when we mobilize members and allies to help and end homelessness, create affordable rental housing, and promote sustainable homeownership. We have the capacity building that I told you, providing training, consultant, and resources, and we help organizations better serve our communities we are HUD intermediary, and we have 36 agencies in 6 states. So it's our 10-year anniversary, by the way. We are in Illinois, in Indiana, in Missouri, in Tennessee, in Wisconsin, in Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan too. So yes, our 10th anniversary, we started with 12 agencies and now we are 36. We also have the Housing Action Court, which each year we connect AmeriCorps members with the community organization to address challenges with local solutions. Housing Action Corps helps organizations in our coalition launch new projects and expand their programs while providing professional development to the next generation of housing justice leaders. It's not expensive, so this is like an extra hand with people that they can help you for the whole year, and is very good to provide the programs. And education and organizing. We build awareness and activate change by sharing information and stories to the policymakers, to the nonprofits, to the media. Also, we have an annual conference called Housing Matters, and we do it in Central Illinois, and we do it every year. Okay, but so this is Housing Action Illinois. We are based in Chicago, is our offices, but we serve Illinois, plus all the other states that now with the HUD intermediary, we provide services. Before me, the presenter, let's discuss important announcements. Yes. So you are going to get a certification of completion if you pass a quiz at the end. So tomorrow, on Thursday, you're gonna receive an email from me, and I'm gonna put the email, Vivian Cristino, on the chat later. So you please put it on your inbox or in the secure box, because you're gonna receive information from me. You're gonna have the link for the test, a link for an evaluation. Please let us know how this training was, and also what other trainings you need, so we can just bring it to you. And you're gonna receive the link that I'm gonna give you right now with a lot of resources that our presenter just gathered it for you. But you're gonna, if you are joining us from a phone or from I don't know, an iPad or whatever, so you're gonna have it anyway on the email. The test is only 10 questions. You can take it twice if you need it. It will be available for 30 days. So don't hurry up. You don't have to do it like right away. It's fine. But you need to attend to the 2 sessions, part 1 today, and on Thursday, July 11th, the second one. You need to please participate. This training promises to be very interactive, and mute yourself. Thank you so much, because I just see everybody just following the rules. Nobody is unmute, and I love it. But if you need to talk for any reason, raise your hand, and actually it's better with the icon. If you mind, just put it like an icon. Let me see if I can raise my hand. Yes, yeah, raise the hand so we can see you, and in that way we can call your name, and you can just unmute yourself and talk and share your comments. Okay. This training is recorded for audio purposes, because it's thanks to HUD that we can bring those trainings to you. If that's why we don't share it with you, but we're gonna share a lot of resources, and you're gonna learn a lot today. Okay, thank you so much for being here, and I hope I can see you in another trainings as well. I want to just pass the microphone to my guy, Laura. Is your presenter, so you can meet her right now. Laura, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Vivian. I appreciate you. Thank you all. I love that. I love that Housing Action. Can we give Housing Action Illinois and Vivian a round of applause for sponsoring today and giving these scholarships so we could be here to get this information? That was a very generous offer, so I genuinely appreciate that. Thank you so much. For those of you, I think most of you know who I am. My name is Laura Breuer-Bazile. I am going to be your presenter. I don't like talking about myself too much. I've just been around for a minute. So I think it's fair to say most of you have been with me in a training before. Yes, at some point. But if you're new to me, I've been in the industry for over 25 years. Before becoming a full-time consultant 10 years ago, I can't believe I've been doing this for 10 years. I worked with the University of Florida Extension Service, where I ran my own housing counseling program and financial capability program as well, leading the university to becoming HUD approved and running that program from the ground up. So definitely have a lot of experience. And let me just share a lot of experience in doing things wrong. Because when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have anybody to help me. In fact, when I first started my own program, I really didn't know much about HUD or HUD approval or the HUD regulations and all the things that we were supposed to do. So I just started studying and figuring things out. And this is before the HUD certifications and all those crazy things that we now have to do in addition. And then I discovered some training opportunities that helped me get better and refine my process. So some of the things you're going to hear me talk about are some of the things that I learned that worked really well for me, and some of the things that I learned that I made mistakes in, and I don't want anybody to repeat those mistakes. Is that fair? And if you've ever hung out with me in the chat, you got to go into the chat and let me know, is it fair? We're going to learn from each other here, not only just my mistakes or my best, my wins, but also from each other's. What do you guys think? Is that a fair opportunity to kind of learn here from each other and just really grab as much information as we can in this topic of enhancing quality control? It's interesting because as I was kind of doing some research on other trainings that might be similar to this, I was having a hard time finding something that really kind of hit some of these pieces. So I hope that some of the things that we're going to be talking about over the next 2 days really helps you get clarity, maybe tighten up some areas that need to be tightened up. I will tell you, there is a lot of information when it comes to quality control. It's very hard to push this into a 4-hour training. So my goal is to really try to hit the highlights. And then as Bibian has already put out in the chat, and she's going to do that again, is the Google Drive, where I've already begun to share some resources. Now, I've shared some of the resources that we're going to need for today, but the rest of them will be available to you on Thursday, because I want you to come back. I don't want you to just come on today and then skip out on me and not show back up. So you can't get everything unless you show up. So you got to come back on Thursday to get it all. All right, so for today, the goal is we're going to hit a couple of things, and we'll see if time allows. This is the first time we are doing this particular training, so sometimes you just don't know how it's going to fall and land and all the things. But what I want to try to get done today in this 2-part series is we're going to quickly define what we mean really by quality control and why it's beneficial to our organization, and really, quite frankly, why it's necessary. Then we're going to get into some strategies of streamlining your counseling process. Now, I don't know how long. In fact, let me just use my chat here. Hey, Miss April, I see you over there. And thank you guys for showing up on camera. I love to see so many familiar faces. I saw Jill. I don't know where she disappeared. She was on my screen over here. I saw Jill just a minute ago, and Alicia, and I see you, Miss Donna. So it's wonderful to see all my familiar faces that I've had in other trainings before. But I'm just curious, can you go into the chat? Okay, you want to, okay, do you want to do that really quick, Bibian? Okay, so Bibian wants to introduce James. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself, my dear. You have to unmute yourself. Bibian, can't hear you.
So I'm mute right now. This is crazy. Okay, guys, I just wanted to introduce James. He's my colleague. James, say hello to everybody. He's going to join you. He's a capacity building as well with us in the team, and he's going to be with you on Thursday. So he's going to allow to enter to the room, and he's going to be your facilitator on Thursday, okay? I just wanted that you recognize him, just in case that you miss me a lot. Thank you.
Hi, James. Thank you so much, James. We appreciate you joining us as well and supporting our training and making sure everything runs smoothly as well. All right, so we're going to get into the quality control and benefits, but we're really going to start deep diving into the strategies for streamlining your counseling process. But what I was going to have you guys do is if you go to the chat and just tell me the number of years you've been in this industry and doing counseling in general, because we're really going to just focus on housing counseling. I'm not going to get into all the amazing other things that we can do because there's a lot of different services that we can provide. But I really want to focus on years of counseling and how and the counseling program itself. So just trying to get an assessment of where we are. So we have a lot of you been in for at least 10 years or more, a couple new people. I love it. 5 months. All right, Miss Alicia, welcome. It's so exciting. That's exciting. 5 months. I'm very excited to see you here as well. All right, so we're going to talk about that. And I'm just going to have, because you just don't know who's coming to this, there may be things that you already know, and it's okay to hear them again. And there may be some ideas that come in that process of already knowing some things that'll help you deepen in your program and enhance it. So just bear with me if we talk about some things you already know about. It's okay to hear it again, but we're going to try to go to that next level and share with each other some best practices that we have found along the way in managing our own program. I'm also going to do a review very quickly on client management systems. What's wonderful about Housing Action Illinois actually sponsoring this is because they are the guru in this space of researching client management systems and all the ones that are out there, and providing their guide for you guys on what to look for in a client management system. So I'm going to hit some of those highlights, and I'm going to talk about this from thinking about innovation and going forward, because I know that we marry our client management systems. But if our client management system is not allowing us to be streamlined in our services, and it's not allowing us to do things in this technological world that we're living in a faster way, then we may need to reevaluate the system that we're using. Because how many of you guys get frustrated? Put a me in the chat. When you waste time on things that you feel like, gosh, there's got to be a faster way to do this. Put a me in the chat if sometimes you experience this, like there has got to be a faster way to do these things. And we are learning in the training field a lot of great ways to automate and duplicate ourselves in the technology, if you will. And so I'm going to challenge some of you, especially my executive directors and managers, to really think about, I know it's a beast to maybe think about changing, but it might be an opportunity for you to really think about, are we using the system that really meets our needs the best? So we're going to hit some of that today. I'm going to hit some of the highlights of HUD and RESPA, mostly just RESPA regulations. And there's only a few things we're going to talk about there, and just making sure that we understand what we can and cannot do, especially when it comes to funding under the RESPA regulations, making sure that we're in compliance and not stepping out of lines in some things there. And then just talking about how do we develop a structured housing counseling policies and procedures. Now, I know that as an organization, you guys have policies and procedures, but here's my question. How many of you in your policies and procedures have, and here's the definition, have outlined the specific step-by-step process of how every client case should be managed from start to finish, how client intake is to be done, what is done in client intake, what conversations are taking place in client intake, how often you're meeting with the client, how those follow-ups are supposed to be scheduled and automated, etc. How many of you have been very detailed in your policies and procedures about the program part, not HR, not those content? Put a 5 in the chat. Put a 6 if you're like, you know what, we might need to look at ours. And there's no judgment here, because what I find is a lot of organizations have policies and procedures, but they don't have their program specified. And if you have more than one counselor in your organization, it is absolutely critical that each counselor is doing the program the same. Doesn't matter if it's person A or person B. From the moment that someone contacts your office to the moment that they leave and receive that outcome, they should be going through the same process. Just like when we're doing training, if somebody else does this training 5 days from now, they should have the same experience. And we want that for our clients. So it looks like a lot of you guys don't have that. And so I think you're going to find a lot of value. We're going to talk about what that's going to look like. So hopefully, I'm not 100% sure we'll get that far today. We'll see. But if not, we'll pick it back up on Thursday. All right. So as we asked you is to show up on camera. Thank you guys for showing up on camera. For those of you who've already been on, if you're not on camera, we hope that you will join us, because we are going to be doing some breakouts today and we want to see you. We know we're on a virtual screen, but we want to create an in-person experience as much as we possibly can. In order to do that, we want you on screen. We want you to have a microphone where you can communicate. I love the chat box, but I love to hear your voice, right? And so when we do breakouts, it's just going to make it a lot easier for you guys to hear from each other, learn from each other, and network together if you have a microphone where you can communicate in that way. If you don't fret. We'll use the chat today and we'll just, do the best you can. So here's what I want to do. I want to do an open mic here. And again, as Vivian said, we'll just use the hand raise. It'll be easier. So not everybody's unmuting yourselves at one time, because we do have a very large group today, which is so exciting. I want to know a couple of you, and if some of you want to do this in the chat, please do this in the chat. What are some of the top ideas or strategies that you are hoping to walk away from walk away from this training with? This is always an important question before I get into the content, because I want to make sure that we've built a training to meet your expectations, right? I have an idea, I've got a plan for you guys, but we have an opportunity to make some adjustments between now and Thursday. I can do that, but I need to hear from you. So if you could go to the chat, or one or two of you unmute yourself, we'll have you raise your hand. What's something that you're like, Laura, when you sent this email out, or when this advertisement went, I'm like, woo, I hope she talks about this because I need to know more about this. All right, Miss Allison, I see your hand over there. So go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I got really excited just about making it more of a streamlined process from walking into the door to getting into that service. And I'm very excited about what you just said about that step-by-step, and every service could be different with the counselors if there's no process in place.
Right.
And so really, I came from like the intake position first. And so getting in the door to into our services is really important to me. And so I'm excited to hear about that, and working in the HUD compliance with it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate it. And then I also saw over here in the comments, Tonisha was saying, yeah, making sure that all of our counselors are doing the same thing. This is helpful because both of you guys are saying the same. Would you guys, is that true for a lot of you? Like, did that really ring like, whoa, do we need to do that? We need to think about, are all of our counselors doing the exact same thing? Is that something that resonates with a lot of you? Let me know in the chat, yes or no. Consistency definitely is the key. Ardelia, I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, please forgive me. I'm not the best with pronouncing names. I try. Ensuring compliance, because we don't do the same thing. Katura said, absolutely. To understand how things have changed with HUD regulations, if any. We're definitely going to talk about the HUD handbook. We're going to talk about some of those highlights. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to attend the training that they did last year, but if you didn't, or if you haven't looked at the documents or just need clarification, there are quite a few changes that were made. Just making sure that if you're a HUD approved agency, that you're in compliance from that. So we are going to hit some of those highlights, and we're also going to talk about some of the key findings, consistent key findings that a lot of that come up in audits that become marks against agencies. So we're going to hit some of that too, so that you can take a step back and evaluate your organization and say, okay, are we doing that? Or do we need to fix something here, right? So that's going to be really important. Okay. All right. So a lot of you guys are saying yes. Consistency, tips and tools to teach better time management. I have got you, Deborah. We're going to talk about block scheduling. Definitely. Miss Regina. Hey, what's going on? Yes, because we have definitely some different experiences, and we do. Everybody has different experiences, which definitely changes how we even counsel. So that's definitely there. So I see a lot of you guys saying that compliancy, streamlining, the intake process, our counselors wear several hats. I feel you on that. And I'm just curious how many of you guys are that are in here are like a team of one. Put a me in the chat, because I know that some of our agencies, Jody, I see you, my friend. Some of us are not, we don't have 5 people. It's just me with 500 hats that I have to wear as one person and become a different person every time I turn around, right? I see you, Miss Christie. So a couple of you guys are in there. So hopefully today we'll be able to address some of that. So in general, quality control is basically our systematic approach to ensure that our services are meeting the standards that our industry sets. Now, a lot of those standards are defined in the national industry standards, which I did. In case you have not seen it, hopefully by now you have. It's been out for 20 years. The standards that we've identified as professionals, what are those best practices, and what should every counseling service entail, whether it's foreclosure, financial capability, pre-purchase, it doesn't matter. We've outlined what every program should really be following at the minimum standards. And so if you've not really studied those, I want to encourage you to definitely get a copy of that. I'm going to hit some of those highlights a little bit later, but that's where we want to start, right? When we have quality control, when we have things in place, we can ensure, as many of you have already said in the chat, consistency, improve service delivery, right? Nothing is worse than if we have someone come in our doors and they don't even feel like we met their needs, right? And then we lose people. Let's just be honest. Raise your hand. How many people have clients come in and we never see them again? Okay, I'm going to put my hand up because I've had that happen, right? And so sometimes that's because they lose interest. Sometimes we let them fall through the cracks. I'm just going to keep it 100. And let me just also put a disclaimer. If you've never been in training with me, which I think a lot of you have, I am Real Talk Laura. I keep it straight and real. I do not sugarcoat. Okay. We've got to take ownership of the things that we can do better, and we need to elevate, right? We do a lot of great things, but how many of you guys, let me know, put a 9 in the chat. How many of you guys know we can always make a next level improvement? How many of you believe that there is something we can next level in and go up, right? And so I see all those 9s. Thanks guys for just joining me in that. I'm going to put my 9 up there, my 9, my 9 in there, because I'm with you, right? We're always looking for ways to make those improvements. We definitely can enhance our client satisfaction, but more importantly, the trust and retention, because I'm just curious, I'm gonna give me a different word. Put follow-up in the chat if sometimes you struggle with your follow-up, with getting people back in the doors. I just need to know, is this something that other people are struggling with? I see it, but I don't want to make assumptions here. So I'm going to ask you guys questions. It just helps me know, yep, I see the follow-up. I see that follow-up. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some things that we need to level up in to make sure follow-up happens. Better organizational reputation. Who doesn't want that, right? And then making sure, again, we're meeting regulatory and regulations and performance standards. So couple key things that we want to make sure that when we're done with this two-part training that we start working on. Now, I should also pause here. If you're here, you may have 1 or 2 things you need to do different. Some of you may be here that may have a lot of things you need to do. Okay. I do not want this training in any kind of way to overwhelm anybody at all. Okay. So here's what I want to say. I saw a lot of 6s in that chat when I asked about program policies and procedures, about consistency in your counseling program. That is an area that a lot of you guys are going to need to develop. And I'm going to give you some guidance on how to do that. So as we talk about things in this training, what I want you to do is just write down, that's something I want you to create what I would call your own cheat list, your cheat sheet. And I want you to write down, I need to do, and then you write down what you need to do, what you're getting out of this training. And then after the training, I just want you to prioritize that list, because there's no way you're going to be able to leave here and try to do it all at once. I don't want anyone leaving overwhelmed. I don't want anybody feeling heavy and feeling stuck because they don't even know where to start. I want you to use your best judgment and start somewhere and just get into motion, right? Obviously, we want to deal with anything that's not in compliance for HUD. That would probably be a priority, right? But there are things that I know you're going to want to do, and you're just going to have to ease into that, because as many of you are executive directors and program managers, your schedule is tight and you don't have a lot of free time. So you're just going to have to use your judgment to decide which comes first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay. We're going to talk about internal monitoring. Okay. If you've ever gone through an audit, the last thing that we want from an audit is to have any level of findings and things that we have to fix. It's not always the end of the world, right? We're not perfect. It's great that, we do get some grace from HUD when they do come in, or funders when they come in and do an audit. They do allow us to fix things. But the last thing we really want to do is even have a finding. So it'd be nice just to prevent that altogether. So we need to take a look at what's going on an ongoing basis to make sure that we're not going to be in a situation where when we have our next audit, that there's something that we didn't do right. And then of course another key part of quality control is staff training and development. Now, I'm not talking about just this type of training. This is great. We send people to training, they get that training. Great. But I'm talking about, even as a manager or an executive director, making sure that you are doing internal training, making sure that you're providing that level of support for your team, and that you have a communication process where your team is getting their needs are being met, so that they can follow your policies and procedures of what your expectations are for managing quality control. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's start talking about streamlining your counseling program from start to finish. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to put you guys in a breakout. Now, I promise that part of the value of getting in this training was not just hearing Laura's voice. You don't want to just hear me and the things that I'm going to share with you. You want to learn from each other. And I think there's so much value in peer learning. So what I want to do is start this training by putting you guys in a breakout. I'm going to break you guys into groups of 10. And what I want you guys to do, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. So please don't be shy. Let's all be extroverts for about 10 minutes. Everyone just jump in. Let's get going, right? We don't have time to be like, who's going to talk first? All right. Just somebody take the leadership and let's get going. All right. And I want you guys to take this moment to share what are some tools that you have found or your organization has discovered that has helped you streamline some area of your counseling service. I need you to choose one person in that group who will share some of the highlights of that. And we may not have time to share all of the things that we learned from each other, but if you could pick, let's say three, at least three, like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. Everybody needs to hear about this. And I'm going to ask that team leader to share with the group. Is that fair? Any heads nodding? Y'all are with me. Yes. Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to do 10 minutes in a breakout, sharing any tools that anyone in this group, and I don't know if I have co-host. So Vivian, if you can make me a co-host. So what you're going to be doing while I'm getting the co-host rights here, I want you guys to think about what is a tool, and I'll just go ahead and share while I'm waiting for a breakout. Here we go. A tool that I've discovered that has been a game changer for me. Are you guys ready? This is for debt management, is called Undebt. And I'm going to put this in the chat so that in case, because I know everyone's like, well, how do you spell that? So undebt.it. If you have not checked out this tool, it is a game-changing tool for people to pay off debt. And I use it in counseling. I use it in one-on-one. It is incredible for helping people pay off debt. So that's just an example of a tool that's really been a game changer in counseling and helping my clients create I know PowerPay is great. I love it. You guys know I preach it all the time, but this is even better than PowerPay. And I don't know why it's not letting me do more than one. Okay. Okay, let me see if it'll let me do that. There we go. I got it. I got it. All right. So we're going to do this. Okay. So we're going to go into breakouts. All right. So I have 2:31. I'm going to pull you guys back at 2:42. All right. Everyone good? So make sure first thing you do is pick one person to share because we're going to move through this fast or we're going to eat too much time. All right, guys. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Give me a tool.
Ask them what is the website. And the website is Undebt.
I mean, do you want to pause the recording while they're in breakouts?
People is coming back. Do you close the rooms? Yeah, in 33 seconds. Okay, perfect.
I think I have to wait until everyone comes back and then I can share my screen. It's kind of a weird feature. Zoom has really changed it. All right, looks like everybody's getting back in here. All right, we should have everyone back in now. All right, let me see if I can share this. Okay, so I need a couple of you. You guys were having some really awesome dialogue. I was able to pop in and listen in. All right, cool. I was like, can you guys, the Zoom has made some changes and it's really throwing me off right now because I'm like, can y'all see my screen? Because I feel like I can't see it, but y'all can see it. I can see it now. All right. So who would like to be, we probably won't have time to do all of them, but I know I have a couple of you guys that are already ready to go. So who can I call upon? I have, let's see, we had in room one, we had Allison, April, Deborah, Christy, Maria, and Melinda. Who is going to share for your group? Anybody who was the designated?
We didn't designate somebody, but I was writing things down so I can share.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Ms. Allison.
It's kind of funny, I will say, with like all the new technology that's out there. I was very blown away by the computer to fax opportunities out there. Just because I work from home some days and that's kind of a pain point. But some things we talked about were the free tools through the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, from handouts to worksheets. We talked about annualcreditreport.com and that they are still offering free weekly polls for consumers, automated email scheduling, And then I wrote down Ring Central, which was the fax program that one of the gals uses.
Ring Central. Okay. So hopefully you guys are making some notes on anything that's kind of, we're going to move through this pretty quickly. So, all right. All right. So we have in room 2, we had Felix, Katura, K-Love, Stephanie, and Tonisha. Who's going to share for that group? Anything that you guys, any new or anything different that wasn't already shared?
I'll go. This is Tanisha. We had about three things specifically. One was migrating to a cloud, a web-based type of CMS system. The other was counseling over the phone because due to COVID. And then the other one was having a dedicated intake specialist that can kind of triage or be the gatekeeper for documents prior to getting to the counselor.
Yeah, that's excellent. I definitely agree. Whenever our budget will allow, if we have one person does that for you, that would take a lot of time off your plate. I'm going to talk about a couple ideas that I have, even if you can't get that person. So hopefully that'll help. All right. Our next group we had in room 3, we had Alicia, Jody, Latrice, Monica, and Regina. Who can share from that group? Your 3.
Our group talked about the online scheduling and how it's a little simpler to be able to have the participant or the client schedule themselves and then do the collection of the documentation. They get a confirmation, and then that with the confirmation, they get a list of items that are needed. And you can, I think you could you could also have like the automated intakes as well. So it just sounded really, really good.
Yeah, and I think both of you were talking about, I heard Acuity and Calendly, which I'm going to talk a little bit of. I use Calendly myself, but I know Acuity is another really good one out there as well.
Yes, that was mentioned. That was mentioned in there.
All right. Thank you so much, Monica. All right. Room 4, we had Anna Yelly, and I'm probably saying your name wrong, and I apologize. Jeff, Jill, Lori, and Sarah. Who's going to share from your group?
I am.
All right, Miss Jill.
So we talked about some of us are in a really small agencies, and then others are in large, and the difficulty getting everybody to get like their put their stuff in one place, put their notes and everything, and the difficulty people like different, like using an Excel spreadsheet versus just going into their CMS and putting in the notes. And some of us have, done things where the central located, the things that you need, like documents, whether it's intake packets, whatever, are in a central area, OneDrive, and they get them from there. And just trying to get everybody to do the same things. And it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's been difficult. It was for all of us, it was, kind of, a little bit difficult.
And the challenge is because, as many as you guys already said, we don't have any policies, procedures that actually formalize the process, right? It's just kind of, some people are just kind of, this is what works for me, this is what works for me. And that creates that challenge, and there's that inconsistency. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right. In room 5, I had Jay Richardson, Tanae, and then Virginia, and another person that has iPhone. I'm not sure what their first name is, so I apologize. Who's going to share from that group? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share. So we kind of talked about DocuSign came up as being a great tool to utilize, because we know we have to have those signatures on those documents per HUD guidelines. And then we also talked about how utilizing different online things, such as a resource by Bank of America called Better Money Habits, to kind of send out to clients to allow them to do some research and reading and things during counseling sessions to boost up their action plan.
That's great. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. All right. And then let's see, we have Ardelia, Donna, Evelyn, Marjorie, and Rosalind. Who's going to share from that group?
I was taking notes. This is Ardelia. I can speak. Outside of what was already mentioned, the CFPB toolkits and sheets, the handbooks, one agency of Omaha, Nebraska, they created their own pre-purchase handbook that was 220 pages that they give out during their homebuyer ed class, and they follow the booklet. And
Okay.
then the last thing was texting capabilities for like reminders or just to outreach to current clients. I mentioned Slick Text,
Hmm.
which is a texting program.
Can you type that one in the chat so people can get the spelling for that? That would be super helpful. I like that.
Sure.
And Letitia, what we can do is, I know Vivian is doing this recording of this. What I can do is try to go back and look at this. Maybe I can get an access to the recording and just try to pull some of those out and get those notes. I'll do my best, but it may not get to you. It may take me a few days post training to get that. So we'll work out that. I'll do my best. All right. Let's see. We had room 7. We had Javon, Jill, Paris, Priscilla, and Renee. Who can share from that group? Anybody? Going once, going twice. All right. They want to keep their secrets to themselves. All right. Room 8, Carissa, Irene, Letitia, Patricia, and Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie.
So, my breakout team was, and including myself, were pretty new. I think we had an intake specialist and somebody else that just came into the field. I've been a housing counselor for 2 years, and the second year I was promoted. I'm sorry, a year later I was promoted to program director. So when I came in, and while I was housing counselor, I was like, we need to streamline better. We need to have some type of Excel for data control, I don't even know, tracking, like, so I'm here to figure out and hear everybody else's tools, because right now I am creating the Excels for my team. In terms of what I need to collect to ensure that we're meeting the targets that we need. Something that I do that I mentioned was I use Outlook, and depending on what needs to be reported or what's the deadline, like if it's HUD 9902, I am, scheduling data control for that on a bi-weekly basis. So I check it. I print out what needs to be corrected if I'm not able to, or if it was an error or a correction that needs to be made by a counselor. I give them a list for them to correct it. So it is a really a team effort that we have to do. But something I also mentioned was I can only do so much on my end. I need everybody else to do their end. That way, when it's time for me to get, that data, it's not as time consuming and it's meeting the targets that we need to meet. So that was one that I had mentioned, and somebody else mentioned, follow-ups are important, using the Outlook for that as well. Like I said, I came in as a program director and I just want to clean up everything, and I just want to put processes in place, effective streamlines. So I am noting everything you guys are saying to see what helps. We don't really use software other than our client management database, which is Counselor Max. So I do reporting from there, but again, for certain grants and certain things that we're looking for, I really just create a spreadsheet for everything, and it's a little time consuming.
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds time consuming. I appreciate you sharing that, and hopefully we'll be able to get more of that for you as we get through this training. And I will say we might not be able to cover all these things because there's only so much time in this training. You could do a whole week training, all day week training just in this topic for sure. And really, it's unfortunate in this space now. You guys got my brain going, like, how can we create something where we can share the resources, because I feel like you guys, some of y'all have some resources that we could be sharing. So let me just kind of sit on that. Maybe there's something I can think about where if anybody in this group has a resource that you feel like would be helpful that you're using, we can find a way to share that with each other if you guys are willing. So I'm going to kind of stew on that for a minute and then kind of circle back to that. So thank you, Stephanie, for sharing. All right, real quick, the last two rooms, room 9, I have B. Pittman, Laura, Sarah, Tanaying, and Walda. I don't know if there was any additional ideas from that group that want to be shared.
Yeah, I can share.
Right.
We had some folks say that they implemented individual and team check-ins with their housing counselors to keep track of new clients, kind of case management, and allow the foreclosure prevention counselors to learn from pre-purchase and vice versa. We started only allowing housing counseling appointments when clients had completed intake, filled out the packet or submitted their documents, because we just had a ton of people canceling. Obviously, we're flexible when folks can't send them ahead of time, but for the most part, you have to turn in your papers until you get the appointment. And then a couple people use SharePoint, send out like a link or a folder for clients to upload their documents directly into. And then someone else uses Teams Planner to track active clients outside of their CMS.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. And Jeff, I see your comment. I'm going to come back to you in just a second because I see you have something in there in the chat. So that's really good. Last group really quick, Gina, Hank. I'm not sure how to say your name all the way, Hankio. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Karen and Sarah. Is there someone from that group has a couple that I want to share from that group? Okay. All right. And Jeff had added in the chat using tags. So Jeff,
Sorry.
oh,
I'll
got
share.
somebody. We have somebody. Good. Thank you, Miss Karen. And Jeff, I want you to think about, I'm sharing in just a second. So get ready to unmute yourself because I have a question for you. Karen, go ahead.
Miss Sharita was also in our group, and actually
Okay,
she
sorry.
had shared that they use Salesforce and Compass. I'm not sure. And that sounded amazing because
Compass.
it basically does everything that everyone has mentioned. Go ahead, take it away, Sharita.
Oh, okay. You were doing so well, Karen. But yeah, we do use the Compass of Salesforce, I guess that's how you say it, by NeighborWorks, and it really does do everything. We have a standard process of you go to the website, you acknowledge that you want to help per whatever service, and the emails start. And we send out the emails. We have the support staff team to follow up with the initial calls. After the clients complete their pre-assessment, they go into the system, and everything then comes from the system. Even our emails where we request documents have links, like for your property tax bill, the link to Cook County. For credit report, there's a link to annual credit report, or a link to Experian for your credit score, or a link to IRS for a transcript. So everything is really paperless. And once a client is assigned a counselor, we kind of just follow up with what's on our homepage of our screen of the new versus those who need their quarterly follow-up. And it really does make the process smoother and easy to track. At least I'll say Cornelius, our program manager, makes it easy to track with his follow-up, and making sure we're doing the data right, because no system is worth its salt if the data in it is not correct. But once the data is in it, it just makes everything kind of easy, like email back and forth, dial pad. Our phone system is through our computer because we're almost completely paperless. We're paperless when it comes to files, but when it comes to clients who can't use the system, they could just come into the office, walk in between a certain hour, and there is support staff to help them enter their information in the system and scan their documents in. So it goes to the council on the back end. So it really is Compass. Compass does it all.
Yeah. And Allison wanted to know, Sharita, so if you could put in the chat what your agency name is, because she was interested in knowing your agency name, because she's using Compass as well, and she would love to check out your agency. So that I want to just add there, and I'm going to come to you next, Mr. Jeff. That's the beauty of having a client management system that does things for you so that you don't have to continuously trade time for money. That's what I like to call in the business world, trading time for money, right? If you're doing repetitive things, we need to find ways to automate or make them where there's a repetitive process. So the problem and the challenge is, I believe in our agency is time, and we haven't set up processes in place, which do take time in the beginning. A lot of this stuff doesn't just happen. You have to take the time to set it up in the beginning, but it's worth that time investment because once it's set up, then it runs itself while you're able to do the things that nobody else can do for you, right? How many of you guys, while Sharita was talking about what the client management system does, how many of you guys were kind of like, with your mouth open, put a 2 in the chat. Like, I want that. I want all of that. I want my clients to be able to fill everything out. I want all of that in the system. I don't want to have to think about anything. I just want to show up and talk to the client, right? I just want to be able to have a system that does so much more for me so I don't have to keep trading time for money. That's kind of, because every time you have to physically do something, that's more time that could be spent on something that nothing can replicate for you. So I see all those 2s over in the chat. So Jeff, real quick question. When you're saying tagging, are you saying tagging in your client management system, or are you saying tagging in your email campaign service provider? Where are we tagging? I just wanted to get clarification on that.
This is in the client management system.
Okay.
All of them are basically databases, and with the database, you have a lot of flexibility and creativity to make it work in many ways. But if you don't know it or know of those capabilities, that's the challenge, because also there's discipline to stick with it and work it, education, and the hunger to go and investigate, and the different levels of expertise of technology. With our system, which is the Impact Pro, I grew up, I'm a senior citizen, but I grew up in technology and I stay abreast of it. And I started off with Excel when that worksheet program first came out. And I took that to, great lengths that today's systems do easier, but still I can do it with Excel.
Right.
But with tags is basically in the system, you can put a certain name tag to a certain client and several of them to say, pull a report that has this particular filter. It's a filter.
Right.
And if you have certain files or classes or clients that have this tag filter, you can name that, HAI or some funding program. And as long as you have that as a filter, only clients or only, reports that are generated are those that are under that particular program. And then you just have to figure out a way that when you want to go and enter someone, you pull up that filter first for all those that are to go into that particular filter. You enter it there. So that's a tag.
I love that. And I knew what you meant by tags, but I wasn't sure if you were talking about your client management system. So can I ask you another question? Because I know people are thinking, I want to learn more about this. And this is very techy. And I don't want to get in the weeds of this because this could be a whole training by itself, right? But my question to you is an Impact Pro, because I haven't played with all of the client management systems. So unfortunately, I'm not visually seen them. Is there a way in Impact Pro that makes that super easy? Or is that like something you kind of have to figure out or get their team to kind of help you set up?
I would say that it was easy for me because I'm kind of a techie.
Right. I know you are.
So,
but for my non-techie people, like,
I would think that they have that capability as a database, but they have to figure out where it's at. They may call it a tag, they may call it a filter, but there's, just like they have the name field, the program field, all these other fields, they should have like maybe 5 extra fields that are unnamed that you have the ability to create a filter in.
Okay. And so if we're using another client management system, you're saying maybe just contact that whoever helps them with their support, maybe they can help them figure that out.
Right. Where to locate that and then create that filter.
Gotcha.
And I think the agency that's gone paperless, that's probably because that's where I want to get, but I'm the only one in the office that has that knowledge base to make it easy and hunger and discipline to use it.
Right. No, it's a game changer because you're basically categorizing people by groups and classifying them as groups. So when you do reports and whatever, or any type of connections or touches, you can touch them based on how they're categorized. And that's what the tags do. And so
exactly. And the information is immediately available, versus trying to pull it all together out of different databases.
So the takeaway for everybody that's listening in, if you're thinking, I don't know how to do this in my client management system, because that's exactly correct. What Jeff is saying is your client, all the client management systems is all based on data, and it's all based on name fields, right? So if this is something you want to learn to see if your current client management system does this, that's something you should ask whoever provides your training and your support. Is this something we can do where I can customize or classify groups based on tag them based on certain characteristics, so that when we need information or data, kind of going back to what you were thinking, I think Stephanie earlier, that's where you would get more advanced in just tagging people and just, tagging that information. So it kind of groups that information together. So excellent. All right. Was this helpful? Yes or no? Just getting you guys in these groups and having these conversations. Let me know over in the chat. Was this helpful? Just to get some ideas and insight from each other. I know this took a little bit of time, but I want you guys to hear from each other, because there are a lot of things that you're doing that I may not even have heard of yet. Right. So that's why I'm glad to see that a lot of this was valuable for you guys. All right. So when we get into streamlining counseling in the process, the biggest thing is I want you to start with making sure you're looking at all the steps that you need to take for each counseling service, right? And I would definitely start with the handbook that HUD has already has had out forever and ever and ever and updated recently. And I would also make sure you reference the national industry standards, because again, what I've already heard in this training is we might have some inconsistency in some of the steps or the way things are going, the way the counseling process is being delivered or administered from counselor to counselor, even within our own organization, right? So we definitely want to look at those steps, and are we in alignment at minimum with the best practices and also the performance standards? And does our program check all those boxes? Because if we're missing something, I can't tell you how many times I've gone into an agency that they don't have certain things in their files, or they're missing notes, or they're missing a file number or whatever. And those are the kinds of things that you just can't afford to have, especially when you go through an audit. So in here, I did upload this workbook in there if you've not seen it, but the homeownershipstandards.org is where you can go and you can look at the standards that define the different minimum activities that should happen with each different types of counseling. So I've just put a screenshot in here of what should be happening in homeownership counseling. Now, that doesn't mean we can't do more. This is just saying, hey, these are the minimum things that we should be doing. And so Sarah's asking a great question. Are the standards getting updated? I've been hearing rumors that they are, but I've been hearing those rumors for 2 years. I have no idea, Sarah, when. I do believe they will. I just don't know when. So hopefully we'll get those soon, because I do think there are some things that are missing, quite frankly, in the standards, but at least we have this as a starting point, right? So thanks for asking. So yeah, I've heard it too, that they've been talking about it. Yes, Mr. Jeff. Did you?
Yes. What I found is that for workshops, I was going through those, and they do have a revision date somewhere in that document.
Okay.
And there was one that was from 2023, I believe.
Okay.
Which is the most recent.
Under the workshop section of the ethics book?
Well, on that whole booklet. So
Okay.
you know if you're dealing with something, because they've had some revisions and drafts to bring it more current.
Gotcha.
Because I found one that was from 2020, and I said, no, I can't use that. But
Yeah.
they do have some data. I think it's either on the last page of the whole booklet or somewhere in
Okay.
there, of what version it is of year.
Okay.
And I think 2023 is the most current.
So I did download it. Again, I always download it directly from the website. So the one that I've uploaded to the shared drive that we shared with you guys in the beginning is in there. So hopefully that should be the most recent one, because that's the one I pulled directly from their website. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been hearing talks, but that it's being updated, that there are updates being had, but there's still some things that are missing. I'm glad to hear that the education piece is being updated, but we know that COVID changed a lot of things and how we do things, right? So that's not even really truly reflected in the standards, and we've definitely got to get that stuff in there. So I know that they're not ignoring that, and they know it needs to be done. So there's probably minor things that are being doing, but my understanding is they're getting ready to do a big revision. So hopefully just keep your ears peeled. And I know as soon as we know something, we will let you guys know as well. We'll get that information out. Okay. All right. So I want to break this down into like different sections, if you will, for structured counseling process. I'm going to just talk about some pieces and parts. Of course, I can't cover everything that you could possibly do in the streamlining process, but I want to talk about just even the way we conduct intake. So there are two different ways in typical that we see across the board on a national level of how people are conducting intake. Either, as someone has already mentioned, I get all the paperwork first and then I schedule the appointment, or we do the intake in the actual appointment. So what I want you guys to do is kind of help me here. I love for you guys to have let's have a little conversation about this, because this seems to be a conversation that becomes challenging, because what works better, doing it with the client, doing this intake with the client, with them in person and going through the process, manually putting everything in with them, or having them do it all and then scheduling an appointment. So I want to hear from a couple of you. Let's actually use the chat. If a couple of you want to raise your hand, I'll call upon you as well. But I want you guys to go to the chat and tell me, what are the pros? What do you think are some of the pros? Let's just focus on having your client do the intake first and then scheduling the appointment. That means they're getting you all the paperwork, they're getting you all the data points, they're getting all of that in there. Go to the chat and tell me, what do you think are some of those pros? And Jeff, you were the first to raise your hand, so I'm going to call upon you so you can chime in. And then Tonisha, I see your hand as well. So go ahead. What do you think are some pros for doing it this method?
Some of the pros is that you're not trying to interpret or summarize what they're saying. It's them actually, so there's no misinterpretation. But on the flip side, they might not understand what you're requesting of them. So, that, comes into the give. I think it's like a 50-50. It's got to be collaborative, but I feel they should take the first step. And then we do the follow-up, even though that creates a lot of confusion, because one of the challenges we have is, how do we make this easier for them to understand? And we find that we're, revising 2 or 3 times, every 5-6 months, our intake letter and making it bigger and all that. And then now we're going to include videos or pictures of the type of document to give them some type of sample of what we are looking for. Not something, a printout from a computer, but an actual statement that says statement on the top, as far as documentation.
And that's the thing. I love that you just mentioned video and or screenshots, because we cannot assume that people understand technology. I think there's a assumption, I think, sometimes, that we just assume people understand how to use technology because we're in that space, and some of us are techie. I'm a techie person, and so I definitely have to remind myself not everybody is, right? But we have to be mindful of the fact that not everybody can do the things that we know how to do on an everyday basis. So doing video tutorials or screenshots are super valuable in helping our clients understand how to really do things, right? Tonisha, go ahead.
Sorry, I was writing what you said.
Oh, no worries.
What has been a pro for us in collecting the documents ahead of time has been we collect them even before we set the appointment, because I feel it allows the counselors time to review the documentation so that they can pose questions that they want to ask during that, or they can also do like a pre-workup of the budget based on what the client has provided, and also the bank statements. They can do a pre-workup of the action plan. It's not going to be complete, but they can at least kind of see what might needs to be discussed. One of the drawbacks to that is a lot of times there's a lag for individuals to provide documentation. So by the time we get around to getting all the documentation, sometimes the documentation is outdated. The other piece of that is that there's things that we find out during the counseling session that we might have needed additional documentation for. Now, I do agree with you about the tech piece. We do specifically send out an intake form via email, and we list out the next steps, but we do allow for people to come in the office if they need to get a paper copy of our intake form, or they need to bring in documents. So we don't, especially for like our seniors or people that are not as computer savvy. So it just depends. I think it could work both ways but I prefer at least the attempt of getting all the documents prior to. Because when we were in our group, I mentioned the days when we were sitting with individuals and they brought their documents the day of, and copying back then took up a lot of time, and it's a lot of documents we're stapling, unstapling just to make copies of. So
yeah. No, I'm with you. And I think that's super helpful. I want to share something. It's a tool that if you are, trying to, I'm going to have to stop I'm going to have to exit out of my PowerPoint here for a second. This is a tool that I've shown in other trainings, but it's called ScribeHow. Anybody, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of ScribeHow. But if you are looking for a tool that will easily capture screenshots for you to give your clients tutorials on how to do things. So if you're here and you're doing virtual counseling and you're having a hard time getting people completing their documents, they don't understand what they need to fill out, they don't understand what the documents look like, whatever you need it to do. Now I have a free version. I'm going to show you the free version because I don't use this a lot, but I've been showing this a lot in training. Is you can use this. Hopefully it'll let me, let's see, capture and scribe. So you can use this, let's say, I need to come up with something. Let me see if I can pull up my, let me see if I can pull this up. So you guys are going to go into my email campaign service provider. So, so do you see how this is saying capturing your browser? Do you guys see that on the screen where it's saying that on the screen? Everybody see that? Okay. Yes. I need head nods.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So let's say I was teaching, let's just say I was teaching my clients how to, okay, oops. Why is it not working? Okay, should be, wow, I don't know. This should be going to the main screen. Oh, you're giving me a hard time today, aren't you? All right, well, boo. It works a lot better than what it's showing you. It's really disappointing me right now, but okay, let me pause this. There we go. So let's say I was going to teach you guys how to do an email campaign. That's what I'm going to pretend. But let's say you were doing a tutorial for your client. So I can say, okay, now we're going to, you can pause it over here and resume. And then I can say, okay, you're going to go over here and you're going to click on broadcast. And then once you go over here, I can scroll up, I can click new broadcast and then show you how to do whatever. So I'm just, type your content. Let's just pretend I was actually doing a real demo. I'm not going to do this fully because we don't have that kind of time. So, but just to show you, I'm going to go ahead and complete this. Now I'm going to show you what it's going to do. So everything that I'm doing, it's literally screen grabbing as I go. And now it's going to create a document of everything that I just did. So you don't need to do this copy, paste, screen this, scratch that. And then all I have to do is I can go in here and I can change the instructions. I can whatever. And you see how it highlights whatever. And then I can download this and it becomes a PDF. So now I have created a tutorial for how to do whatever it is I need someone to do. Does this make sense? Let me know yes or no in the chat. Okay. This is a way to streamline your administration work. So anytime you need to show your client how to scan a document from their phone, hello, my friends, because I don't know about you, but trying to teach or how to upload documents to your cloud drive, right? Because one of the streamlined things I'm going to recommend is that if you're trying to do things virtually and you're not wanting to pay for all these apps, you've got to just get a little creative. And that some of you already mentioned you're using SharePoint or a cloud drive where they can upload their documents. You can use this tool and it's a free version. I don't know how extensive the free version is to screen grabs and automate this for you. So now it's done. I just maybe need to do a few little editing. You saw it was done in 16 seconds because I was trying to do something super quick. And then I can download it, share it, whatever. And then that becomes the instructions that I can now give my clients so that I can reinforce helping their ability to complete the intake process or whatever things I need to collect from them. Okay. How many of you guys, okay, so Jeff, I know you have your hand raised and I apologize. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. Go ahead.
Well, that's okay. I just put it in chat that Windows, I believe it's 10 or better, or even Windows 9, it has that capability to do the screen, captures. And then there's ways to do the same thing. It's just more cumbersome. It's not as streamlined as this application. But I did notice what you put up, that if you wanted to go take it even further, there is a fee associated or some type of subscription.
Yeah, there's a premium version. I'm not sure what the difference between the free version and the premium version. I haven't used it too much because my virtual assistant's what turned me on to this, but she uses it a lot. So I'm like, oh, this is something I need to show all of you because I teach and preach. You got to have tutorials. You got to show your clients how to do things. If you want them to be able to complete stuff, you got to show them how to do it. That's why they're not getting it done. So this is a great way to create tutorials, and it's very simple, easy way. Now, if you want to create a video, guys, get scrappy. Like, open up your Zoom. How many of you guys have Zoom? Raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat, right? We have Zoom. Get Zoom, go into your personal meeting room, lock the room, nobody's coming in, and you can just record whatever you're doing. You can share your screen and it'll show what you're doing. And then you can download the video. It does not need to be technical and techy, okay? You can get more formal if you want. There's I use ScreenPal. There's another one. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'll look it up and circle back to you guys. But there's a couple other tools out there if you want to get official tool to do screen capturing and stuff like that. For video, you can do that. But I'm just trying to keep it super simple for you guys. Like, we can go to that next level to make things a lot faster and get things from our client. So the free version only works with website browsers. You need the paid version to create Scribe off a desktop platform. Thank you, Allison. Now here's my little secret. Some of you heard me say this. I never recommend that you guys go and do the pricing plan. If you're a nonprofit, always search for the name of the company and nonprofit pricing. A lot of times these organizations have a nonprofit pricing plan, and they don't necessarily advertise it. So sometimes it's hidden. So always, like, you can put Scribe How nonprofit pricing and see if they do nonprofit pricing. If they don't have it advertised, you can always ask, what's the worst thing they can tell you? No, right? That's the worst thing you can ever be told is no. But if you don't ask, you don't know. And so those are things that you can do. So Ardelia, yes, Screencast-O-Matic is one. And I think actually it's now called ScreenPal. So they've merged with ScreenPal. So it's the same platform now. So that's the one I've been using for years, and it's wonderful. It's super easy. So thank you for sharing that in the chat.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead,
If I
Jeff.
can just real quick, easy way, I do print screen and then paste it in a Word doc, and then go back to the thing, print screen on the next piece, put it in the Word doc, and it automatically aligns them, one after the other.
Right.
And that's a quick and easy, but still, yours program seems like you don't have to do the pasting piece. It does it automatically in sequence,
Right. It does it in sequence of you doing it. And the other thing is, because I used to do it like you did, Jeff. I'm old school too. That's my old school way of doing it. But what I like about Scribe How, and if I was in a place where I needed to create screenshots, I would absolutely pay for this program because I think it's 100% worth it.
Right.
What I like about it is it creates the instructions for you. Because with screen grabbing, you still got to go in there and type everything. Whereas this will automate the instructions, what they think the instructions are. Or you can change it. So it makes it super easy. So you can literally have a tutorial in a matter of 10 minutes or less without spending all the extra time. But yes, you can get even scrappier and do it the old fashioned way. But I know that a lot of my friends here are like, Laura, I don't have that kind of time. Right. So I'm willing to do the scrappy old fashioned, but I also know my people, there's some of you are like, I'm not doing that because that takes too long. So I'm going to show you the things that are going to help you save time and money at the same time. All right. All right. So we talked about some of the pros. I agree. I'm a big fan of having my clients go in, do everything, and then come in and I meet them. And the reason I like doing the intake prior to meeting with them is because I want to do a full-on assessment. I want to get in there. I want to see what's going on with them to the best of my ability. And it doesn't have to be perfect and complete, but if I can have at least 80% of the information that I need to get that appointment started, that's going to help me streamline that client intake a lot faster and get their case going a lot faster. So one of the things that I like to do in the program is get the paperwork, get the documents, and so some things you can do, like I said, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but so let me talk about this first, is go in there and look at the assessment, do some calculations, prep for that appointment. So that way, when the client comes in, they already can see some of the options that are already in motion for them. You're not having to spend that appointment time to do that, right? So there's prep time and then there's appointment time. If you're doing it in the actual appointment, there's definitely pros and cons for that. So I don't know if anybody wants to share a couple pros and cons, or let me just focus on pros that you have found by having them by doing the intake with the client in the actual appointment. Does anybody want to share? Latrice, go ahead.
So we do the pre-appointment, we call, like they do an appointment where they do the drop-offs with the documents. And then that gives me time to contact the landlord and get everything that I need. Sometimes they may not have all the documentation, so having that pre-appointment always helps me so that when I'm at the actual appointment, then I can go over everything and we have everything and I know exactly what we're talking about before I get their hopes up and what we can and cannot do.
Right. No, and I love that. And I love that you said that because that is one of the recommendations I have is if you are going to do the appointment intake like format where you have them come in, is to break it into a multiple step process. It doesn't need to be a full hour and a half, maybe do a shorter version, a shorter appointment just to get the process started. And then you can do a deeper dive later and that will help you streamline. So I love that you already got, I love it. You're reading my brain, Miss Latrice. You guys are doing it. I love it. That's awesome. So what I would recommend is exactly what she's saying. So if you're going to do the intake with the client directly, is to break it up into a 2-step. It's not more work per se. It's what you're doing is you're doing a shorter appointment to get the data information, and then you're following up with them to do the full on assessment and the full on conversation about their goals and all those kinds of things. And then you really get the ball rolling. And that the follow-up in between time is shorter than a typical appointment. So if you do an intake, if you have them collect all the information first and then you do an appointment, you don't necessarily have to see that client right away. Whereas if you do if you do the intake with the client, you may have to see them a lot faster. So it just depends on what works for the client. And of course, it also depends on the type of counseling, right? Because we know if it's foreclosure, that changes everything, right? Because the timeline is based on where they are at, where they might be in that process altogether. Okay. All right. I just want to say, guys, if y'all need to do a quick little stretch or a little bathroom break, we're going to keep pushing through. We only have 30 minutes. It's a short 2 hours, so we really don't take breaks here, but feel free to go and take a quick break if you need to. I know you want to get all this information, but don't stress. We're going to keep moving forward. But definitely do not feel like you can't take a quick little stretch or break or something if you need to get coffee or whatever. All right. So we've really already hit all of these. So the thing is, what I want to say is look for ways to automate. Here is where the client management system is going to be absolutely pivotal and critical. If your client management system does not have the ability for your clients to create their own client portal, and that's not something you're going to ever move into, then you've got to create something online. Anytime you can have the client do the work themselves, it is going to not only save you money, but it's going to save you time, right? If you have an intake specialist, that's great, but not all of us have that luxury. So whenever we can create an automated form, and here's an example, you could create a form online. And if you can, and it also depends, and this is the challenge in our industry because we have so many different CMSs out there. So it really depends on your CMS, but it's kind of what Jeff was saying earlier about using Excel sheets. You could actually take the information from a form and you can convert that form data to a CSV file. Excuse me, and you can upload that CSV file into your client management system. Now, all client management systems may not do that. And if your system doesn't do that, then this doesn't work for you. But if you have the ability to add CSV files to your client management system, then this is a way to automate your intake without having to have a human being to enter every data point. So basically, the client could go to your website, fill out the intake on a form, that's downloaded into a CSV and uploaded into your client management system. Yes, there's still a couple of steps there, but it's still a huge time savings than someone having to manually put things in every single time. So if you don't have a client management system that allows the client to do their own input into your actual system, then that would be a workaround if you need that. And if you have clients that don't have technology, because that's a big issue, right? Some of you are working in rural communities, then I would strongly recommend when you can to budget for some technology where the client can come into your office and use an iPad or a computer to do it on a virtual level. Again, because if you are a team of 2 or 3, you don't have necessarily the manpower to do all that data entry and meet with the clients and do the administration and all. Y'all feel me on this, right? So the thing is, I want you guys to think about how can we set up systems and processes that will help us create data in an automated way where the client can actually be more in control of what they're putting in. And how can we pull that, extract that information and also put it back into our client management system. It can be done, may not with all of your client management systems, but there are client management systems out there that will allow you to do that. Ideally, though, you're using a client management system. And let me just say, this is what we're growing into. Compass is out, Impact Pro. There's a few of them out there that have already built this in where the client creates their own portal and they can go in and do everything. That is the premium granddaddy. If you want to streamline your counseling process, this is the best thing you can truly do for your counseling program to streamline it, is by allowing the client to go right into a system and put everything in electronically. It's going to save you a lot of time. Okay. If you're not quite there, then I would try to do something in small steps. I like somebody mentioned earlier, doing things in a virtual wallet like DocuSign. Okay. There's PandaDoc out there. There's several different applications that people are using. They've basically created electronic versions of their intake documents so people can fill things in and sign things virtually in a secure fashion, and it gets sent back to you. Now, if you're still not getting documents from people, then it could be that they're not understanding how to do it. And that's where tutorials come in. Okay. So I just showed you a tool to help you give those instructions so they understand how to complete it, because we can't assume they know how to do this. Okay. So if you're still getting challenged with people not getting in, here's what I would ask. I would ask your clients, why are you, I would start getting that direct feedback. What are the reasons that people are, not able to put their intake in sooner than later? What was the challenges they faced? If you're not surveying your people to get that information, you're doing your organization a disservice. You've got to find out what are those barriers, what's causing the problem, so that you can create a process to overcome those barriers. Okay. Now, during the appointment, I'm going to show you something. How many of you guys know about, how many of you guys have heard about ChatGPT? Raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat. Okay, because everybody's not on camera, so I can't see all your lovely faces. Okay, and how many of you guys have ever used, I'm going to open this up really quick, have ever used, no, I don't want this one. Have you ever used Google Memo, or I think Word has it too, where you can record your voice, you can talk to your computer and it will transcribe for you? Has anybody put a 2? Have you ever used this? I'm going to show you something that if I were doing counseling today, 100%, this is what I'd be doing if you're not using a virtual meeting. So if you're doing an in-person meeting, I'm trying to find my thing here. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to show you something here. So we're going to push this over. So let's pretend we get an intake packet and you're doing an assessment and you just want somebody to transcribe for you. Or you don't, how many, because again, time, MS Word dictation. I knew you would know, Jeff. I was hoping you would throw it in there. I couldn't think of it because I don't use MS Word, I use Google, but they both do the same thing. You can have it dictate. And so you talk to your computer. And so it's kind of like the old way of dictating where you could transcribe, but you don't have to have a person do this. You just turn on dictation. So in Google, I'm just going to show you here. I can have this track. So let's say I'm looking at a client's file, or maybe we're having a conversation, or if you're in a Zoom meeting, there are tools inside of Zoom that you can do to take notes for you in the AI form. But if you're not tech savvy, you don't have all those, Google, okay, this or MS Word dictation, either one of these will work. So let's say I'm looking at a client file and I want to track some questions that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and just record my voice. So what I'm seeing in the client file, they have a credit score of 660. They have a debt to income ratio of 55%. My questions are, there are a few charges in their credit report that I'm not sure if they're theirs or not, because it's a bit confusing. I want to talk to them about some of the late fees that the late payments that they have in their credit report. I also found some things in their bank statements that I want to review. I see a lot of, let's say, coffee trips, or let's say I'm seeing extra cash being withdrawn. So I have some questions about that. I also see they have some money in savings, but I want to talk to them about some saving strategies, or maybe looking at their budget of where they may shift money away from and put it into savings so they can actually put that towards buying a home. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. Okay, so I can actually just talk to this thing, and this isn't perfect, but that's fine. You guys are getting the idea. And then I'm going to go into ChatGPT, which there is a free version of ChatGPT. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT, can you organize my notes for my upcoming meeting? And I'm going to paste those notes, and I'm going to let ChatGPT go ahead and take my notes for free. By the way, this is all free. There's no cost. You guys like free things. So there you go. So guess what? for those of you who are spending hours taking notes and typing everything into your system, we need to stop doing that. ChatGPT is your best friend or some type of AI technology, but this is free. So if you want to use Google Dictate or Word Dictate or another whatever to capture your thoughts in your appointments, you can focus on your client. It will capture the conversation. All you need to do is copy and paste it and then come into ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT, I need you to take these notes and I need you to organize them so that I can put them in the client management system. Anybody excited about this? Yes or no? Let me know. Could this streamline your counseling process? Let me know in the chat. What are you thinking? Are you going to use this? Thumbs up, thumbs down. What are you thinking? I love ChatGPT. I use it so much for so many things. For everything in my life, I feel these days, personal and professional, but there's just a lot here. Obviously it's not perfect and obviously it's not 100%. Another thing you could even try is Grammarly. Okay. So Grammarly is another tool that you can have it, you can go into Grammarly, put this in the Google Doc and just tell Grammarly to fix it and rewrite it or summarize it. So you can use Grammarly for that. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, my organization has a lot of concern about utilizing even Google platforms with client names associated with it. You know, where is that data stored? And it's not on our servers. And, you know, these are HUD, you know, reported clients. And so how do, you know, how do I approach that?
Yeah.
Because we just get a lot of
Pushback.
pushback from our administration because these, you know, systems aren't secure with this, you know, personal client data.
Right. No, that's actually really valid. So again, I wouldn't probably put in this, you notice I'm not using a client name or that kind of thing. So I'd probably be very careful even in this situation, just not to say a client's name, but somebody did ask, do you need consent? I would definitely give them consent. Hey, I'm taking notes and I'm using Google to transcribe this for me. Do you have a problem with that? So I would get their permission. I would definitely never do this. And I'm glad that you asked that question. I would definitely never do this without them being, especially even in a virtual, again, the same thing. Hey, I have a note taker in here taking notes for me today. Do you feel uncomfortable doing this? I've actually experienced this personally in meetings that I've been in. So it's very important that you definitely disclose that you want to use a tool to help you with this before you go and do it. That's number one. Number two, I think there's a lot of unknowns, and I think you're bringing up a really valid concern. There are some unknowns about the security and those kinds of things. So I think at this point, we want to be very careful in how detailed we're probably being. So that's why you might want to be careful and not using names and those kinds of things, because you're just kind of talking in general or, you know, tracking the information, but you're not putting a social security number, you're not putting the name of the client, you're not putting identifying information there. So be very careful in how you would even transcribe that, because I do believe it's secure, but there is still a lot of unknown. So, and that's going to be a kind of a wait and see. You know, I know we're looking at doing some more training on AI. We're doing a lot of research on this, but I'm with you. I'm not 100%, 1,000,000% sold on AI right now. There are certain AI technologies that I'm not necessarily trying to sign up for because I don't know what's happening with this data, and I'm not going to necessarily give it all my information. So we do need to use, you know, use your discretion very, you know, in those kinds of ways. So, okay, so I don't know if that helps, but you know, it's something you're gonna have to ease into. You know, I think the biggest thing is there are some tools out there that can transcribe for you. I would be careful on maybe what you're putting in there if you're concerned about, you know, personal identifier, and then I can't think of their name. My brain is like not computing. Identifiers, there it is, in there, and just be mindful of that. But you know, those are valid concerns. And so they may not be ready for that. And there are some things that are unknown yet about it. So I understand where you're coming from. Vivian, I know you have your hand up, and Jeff.
Yes, I think so. This is important, like just the sample that Laura just put there. Do you internally help to put your ideas together before in preparation to talk to your client? So if you want to talk to your client and you are reviewing the intake and you have questions and you have, it's very simple and understanding. You just give it the paragraph to the computer. You just say that They organize them, the questions for you and everything. And then you can have a very nice conversation and productive conversation with your client. And in that way, that one is something that you can start doing it internally. And then I know that technology is advancing every time, all the time. And it's gonna be at one point that it's okay, you can use it and it's gonna be totally normal. But right now, this sample especially is perfect when you are going to organize your notes. And also you can copy and paste later in your notes in the client management system. So it's totally perfect, understanding, clear, because this is what HUD is looking when they go to your agency to do the HUD reviews.
Right.
And when you are going to do your quality control, you just need to understand what happened with the client. And you can just say client case, client, this happened, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to say, Margarita says that he doesn't have
Right.
money to pay the rent. The client doesn't have money to pay the rent, but he needs this and that and that. You can just use it, just try it and use it and put it on your client management system and see how your notes are going to look so perfect and everybody can understand. This is very good.
Well,
Thank
and the
you
other
for
thing
doing
is you don't actually have to record. You don't have to use it in the actual client session if you don't want to. If you want to meet with your client first and then use a dictation to dictate for you and not use personal identifying information, right? And then just have it summarize, you can use Grammarly or ChatGPT to even summarize it so that you can keep it in a format that you can put copy paste into your client management system. It's still going to save you a lot of time and having to type it all out. So even if you're not using it to necessarily record the meeting, which I can understand why there might be some pushback on that. And I'll be with you. Like there's some vetting that we need to do. We've got to look into those things. So we don't need to just run out and do that. But what you can do is you should be scheduling some time after each counseling meeting to debrief and, do notes if you're not doing them as you go, where you could actually go in here and just say what your thoughts are and what you did and what happened. And then you can clean it up using AI technology. So it it flows better, if that makes sense. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I've had the similar challenge. Recording, I find that's prohibited. When you like right now, getting permission to record audio and video. But as far as dictation, I feel that does not require, and this is personally, and because you can just, if you write fast enough, it'll take shorthand or your stenographer, you can do the same thing. So the permission there. But then the other thing is that I don't like Google or anything outside our database because there's risk associated, especially if you don't know the triggers to make it, confidential. There's triggers in Google to say, hey, this is a shared drive, but you only share it with who, and this person and that person.
Right.
But for anything, nothing's guaranteed 100% safe, not even your own system where you're located, even if it's on a secured, internal database. If it's connected to the internet, it's got exposure.
Right. And there's never any way to 100% be foolproof. And that's why we have privacy policies and we have those disclosures that they sign when we do our intake process, right? And these are things that we can put in our privacy notice, right? These, we do, but they can opt out, right? That's the whole point in having a privacy notice, is letting them opt out of those things. So again, I'm with you. Like, we have to use judgment. We have to vet things. We don't want to run out the door and just start doing things, irresponsibly, right? But if there's concerns, like you were saying, Jeff, and I know, where'd she go? I lost her on the screen. I think it was Sarah, but, just how do I get my administration on board? I think even if as simple as you're using dictation just to capture your summary and then allow it to clean it up for you, this is going to save you a lot of time. Because I do think that this is where we spend a lot of time that we can save to do other things that we can't replicate or automate or clean up, if that makes sense. So hopefully this is helpful. I don't want anyone to run out the door and be like, I'm going to go do everything. That's not what I'm suggesting by any means. But I think there are tools out there to help you expedite your process and streamline it and clean up some areas that might be time consuming. I had a counselor that worked for me and she was great with notes, but she would spend too long typing up her notes. And I had to say, listen, I love that you're so thorough, but we can't be this thorough. We don't spend hours typing up notes. We have to clean those up faster, right? And so I like thorough. I like to know what's going on. We need to have that for HUD regulations, but we need to be careful on how much we're doing, right? All right. So hopefully this is somewhat helpful, just kind of thinking about what we can do and what that looks like as a policy and procedure in our organization. Again, we don't have to run out and do everything all at once, but these are just tools that we can keep in mind or just be aware of as things unfold more that we can start implementing. I do want to encourage you to check out more of the Zoom tools as well. Again, client opt out, but looking at some tools that are integrated even in the Zoom platform for those of you who are doing virtual counseling and how you can leverage those to streamline some of the activities that you're doing. Okay. Another best practice is scheduling the appointment in the appointment. A lot of times people are letting their clients leave the appointment without the next appointment scheduled, or putting that into a system that automates and reminds them of the next appointment. So as a couple have already mentioned, Acuity, 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 and Calendly, CALENDLY, Calendly. Those are two tools where you can go in there and you can create your templates. So the client can use that to schedule the appointment. So you can send them, you can send them the link. And then they go in there and they can do it right there in person. They don't have to go home and do it on their own. I would, again, can you pull out your phone? I'm going to, here's the link. I want you to go on your phone and I want you to go ahead and schedule your next appointment. And then that puts them in a workflow of automation. That workflow will send them a confirmation. That workflow will send them a reminder. That workflow can also send text reminders, email reminders, and you get to decide how that workflow automates. So if you want, for me, it's an automatic confirmation. And then I usually do a week out and then the day before. And sometimes if I'm doing text messages, a 30-minute reminder, because I want to make sure those people are coming back in the door. When we do not have any type of reminding, this is where people fall through the cracks. So if you want to streamline your counseling process and manage that follow-up, because again, quality control, we have to show HUD that we're doing our due diligence to do follow-up, then we have to put systems in place that encourage and remind people of what's coming up. Just like when we go to the doctor's office, right? They call us and they let you know, you got 48 hours. You need to let us know if you're coming, confirm. Anytime you can do emails, and I would even add text messages, more importantly, that's ideal. That's where people are. People are all glued to their phones. So anytime you can put that message reminder in front of them on the device that they carry everywhere with them, that is going to be a best practice. So if you can start using a tool, I think Calendly is like $12 a month. It's very inexpensive. Imagine putting, a few hundred people through those pipelines for $12 a month. How much time you're saving, because nobody really has the time to stop what you're doing, send an email or call that client to remind them. That's more than $12 a month of time. Okay. Is that true or false? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Are we spending more than that if you're trying to do everything so manually? Yeah, you're spending more than $12. And I know as nonprofits, every time we see another fee, we're like, but what you have to understand is people are money too. And every time I'm having to pay somebody to do that work, that's costing me more money than it does for the app itself. Does that make sense? Okay. So I want to really encourage you to look at some of these tools. I understand they cost money, but this is part of doing business, right? We can't do 100% of what we do for free. We just can't. And so we've got to look at some of these tools that can save the time and that we need to do the things that nobody can replicate for us. So I would encourage you strongly. Now, some of your client management systems, they do this, right? They have it already built in their interface to have an appointment scheduler and reminders. So utilize that tool if you're not. If you don't have that in your client management system and you don't have the budget for Calendly, so here's my scrappy step. Go into your Outlook if that's what you're using and create templates. Create a template already pre-scripted. All you got to do is put the client's name and the time and the date. It's a template, and then every time, and then you put an appointment reminder on your calendar. Remind Jill of appointment. So it's on your calendar as an appointment of things that you're supposed to do that day, so that you can pull in that template, pull it in. It's like you literally can go into Outlook, say create template, save it, it's there. And then when you go to do a new email, you use the template, it auto populates inside of your Outlook, and then you change the name and the date and you send it out. Okay. So anytime you can do those things, even if you can't afford the apps that do that for you, use the tools that you have and just get scrappy. And here's another way that I use AI. I would have, if you're like, I don't even know where to start, or I don't have templates written, go into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT write your text messages and have them write your templates for you. You'll be done in 5 minutes. Okay. So you don't even have to write it. You can go into ChatGPT and say, I need you to write a reminder, appointment reminder email for my client. And it's going to do it. And you can say, I'm a housing, you just say, I'm a house. And here's how you talk to ChatGPT. You talk to AI like they are a person and they are your assistant. So I think of it as if you've hired someone to do work for you and you're having a verbal conversation. You go in there and you say, I'm a housing counselor and I'm doing some pre-purchase. I need you to write me an appointment reminder for my pre-purchase counseling clients of their upcoming appointment. I need a 24-hour reminder. I need a 1 day or, the day of reminder and a 30-minute text. It's going to do it. Okay. These are things that you can do to streamline your counseling process so that you can spend the time in the counseling session with the client and not have to worry about all these other things. Certain things I leave to the client to do. And that's it, right? We also need to delegate some of those things to the client, right? So anything they can do on their own, that's great. But if we can put those systems and processes in place. All right. So any other methods that you guys have discovered? Emails, Outlook have option to schedule, and there you go. So you can even schedule it. I don't use Outlook that way. So thank you, Alicia, for adding that. You can even schedule when it gets sent out. So one of the things that we're going to talk about later, it'll probably happen Thursday at this point, is block scheduling. And so what you can do, in fact, let me just, because I'm talking about it, let me just go there for a second. It's right here. This is something I strongly recommend for every person in your organization, is to create a block schedule. And that means that you have a systematic approach to how and when you do certain tasks in your job, right? So here's an example for a counselor. The first hour, maybe, or even 30 minutes, depending on, and this is not, you don't have to follow this perfectly. This is just an idea. This is an example that you can tweak and make it yours. Okay. But let's say for the first hour of every day, it's emails and returning phone calls. And then from 9 on Mondays, and Thursdays, there's 2 appointments. And then in the afternoons, 2 appointments. You can see there's appointment 1, appointment 2, appointment 3, appointment 4. So from 9 to 12, there are 2 appointments. Now, why is there only 2 appointments? Because number one, best practice says we shouldn't be meeting more than 4 clients a day. 3 is really the cutoff, but I'm going to give you guys 4. Okay. Depending on the type of follow-up it is. But you should also be scheduling time in between those appointments to debrief what just happened in that counseling appointment in your client management system, to give you that administrative time to do the things that you need to do after that session. And then on, let's say, Tuesdays and Fridays, you see here in the blue, follow up with long-term clients. These are clients that sit in your pipeline for a long time. So you're blocking off time intentionally, that those are the times, and you're going to be working with the long-term clients that are going to be in that pipeline for a while. And there could be quite a few of them. And then again, counseling regular. And then Wednesdays, that's a whole day that's dedicated to no counseling, and you're just completing action plan items for all of your clients. Okay. So that day is reserved just for action planning, administrative things, any other duties that you have. And then Fridays, at the end of the day, there's an update or maintain files or any other last minute administrative things you need to do. How many of you guys, put a 1 in the chat if you're using block scheduling for managing your calendar? How many of you need to do this? Put a 2. How many of you need to improve this? I'm just curious how many of you are already, okay. So I've seen a few 1s. I'm seeing a lot of 2s. This is how you streamline your life. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. There was a time when I did not do this. Again, I told you there's a lot of mistakes that I made. This is a change that I've made in my business. Even today, I do block scheduling. There are certain days when I teach. There are certain days when I meet with clients. There are certain days when I have appointments. I use the same process for my own line of work. This is a game changer. You are going to save a lot of time, energy, and money by using block scheduling. Okay. So what I encourage you to do is take a step back with your counseling process and how you're going about it, and think about when does it make the most sense to meet with clients, and how can you block off those times so that when someone says, hey, Maria, I would like to meet with you, Maria knows I meet with clients on Mondays, Tuesday afternoons, and Thursdays based on this schedule. Does that make sense? And Maria knows when she sends her client her calendar, that's what's available. All right. We actually close on Friday, so no admin. So on Friday on admin, there you go. So you have to some level some of that blocking, right? You've been intentional with some of that. That is how you're going to manage your time better. because you're intentionally creating space in your calendar to do certain activities. The other thing I'm going to add here, I'm going to go back to the follow-up, is thinking about how to be intentional to, if you cannot do this in your client management system, some of you can use the client management system if you can do this. But if your client management system does not allow you to plan out your follow-up or keep things in front of you, then use your calendar to do that. You can have more than one calendar. You can color code your calendar so you can see things on a different light. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do is, when I know I need to send out a reminder, then I would put that on my calendar as an appointment. It doesn't mean I'm busy. It just means it shows up on my calendar so that I don't forget I need to do this. Okay. So decide on a process, whether it's using your calendar, using an automated tool, or whatever, to intentionally carve out that time and plan certain activities so that you can make sure that you're doing the follow-up and follow-up occurs. If you put these things into practice, I asked you guys this in the beginning. How many of you guys are struggling to get clients to come back in your doors at times? Many of you said, I am. This is why we don't have processes in place to ensure follow-up occurs. Okay. Let me know. Is this helpful? Is this something you can get out, walk away from this training and start shifting into? Yes or no? Let me know. Let's do a check-in here. Okay. So I'm going to just wrap up a couple of things, and I think this will be a good place to stop. Yeah, we've talked about all that. Okay. So we've covered a lot. I know we've had and I hope that I know we didn't get near as far as I wanted to today, but that's okay, because you will get everything that I planned for you, whether I give it to you in a lovely document with steps and everything. I will make sure you have it. We still have another 2 hours on Thursday, okay, where we're going to pick up this conversation. I will make sure you guys you have a copy of today's slides. We have a few other things we're going to be adding to Thursday in addition to what I've already given you. So please show up. I hope that you like the way we're going about this. Is this starting to meet some of your expectations? Let me know. Where are we? Are we on track with this training? Because if we're not, we got to make some adjustments before Thursday. Okay. All right. I hope that you guys are taking some good notes. Please write down your questions before next Thursday. This is about you. I'm here for you. And if we got to customize and shift, then that's what we do, because this is about you. It's not about my plan. It's about what you need from us in this training. Okay. Vivian, do you have any closing remarks before we exit?
No,
I know. I think we do need more time.
I love it. I think this is amazing. And as I say, yes, I wish we had more time, because people is very engaging. And I love, guys, that you just take in consideration all of those samples. You can use it in one way or another one. And little by little, you're going to go into the EI. So just try to streamline everything that you do, because you do a lot. And yes, you have to, okay, bye, Jen. Take care. Thank you. Should be mandatory for every agency.
I know,
yes,
right?
Of course. Yes, I wish it could be. But anyhow, you guys, I know that you are going to do a very good job, and you are going to have your quality control in place in your agency. So thank you so much, Laura. I'll see you guys on Thursday on time. Bring your questions, and you're going to receive the information after the workshop with all of those links if you need it. Okay. Take care. I'll see you later.
Bye, guys. Vivian, before you leave, there was a question if we can provide a copy of the